Hi, thank you guys for joining me. This video is going to be about memory and eyewitness testimony. Eyewitness testimony is one of the most important types of evidence in the justice system. It can be used to convict or acquit a defendant, and it can have a profound impact on the lives of everyone involved. But eyewitness testimony is not always reliable. In fact, studies have shown that eyewitnesses are often inaccurate, and their testimony can be influenced by a number of factors. The human brain is an incredibly complex organ, and it's not always perfect. When we see something, our brains don't simply record a perfect image of the object. Instead, our brains process the information and create a mental representation of the object. This mental representation is what we remember.
I study false memories. People believe that memory works like a recording device. You just record the information, then you call it up and play it back when you want to answer questions or identify images. But decades of work in psychology has shown that this just isn't true. Our memories are constructive. They're reconstructive. Memory works a little bit more like a Wikipedia page. You can go in there and change it, but so can other people.
So this is a problem for eyewitness testimony. If memory is reconstructive, then it's not accurate. In its reconstruction, it's changed and will produce errors. False memories are Bartlett called confabulations. It's how misleading information influences memory. This can include leading questions. So the words that I use to ask a question can imply a certain response. And this influences the memory that someone reports.
Significant studies that illustrate how outside factors can influence and change our memories. So in this one study that she did, they had participants watch a video of an accident, and then they asked them questions about what they remember. They would ask the groups in different ways, like
contacted, hit, bumped, collided, and smashed. And each verb resulted in a different average estimation of speed. A week later, in a follow-up interview, the researchers asked participants if they saw any smashed glass on the scene. Even though there was no smashed glass in the original video, those participants who had been primed with the concept of a high-speed crash in the smashed condition were most likely to report that they had seen broken glass. The power of a word.
Oh, those people likely don't even remember how that question was phrased to them, but it changed their actual memory of the event. That's crazy. And so a year later, those same people were like, let's do another study. And they showed the participants a bunch of like car crashes, or like, I don't know if it was a bunch, but they showed the participants like car crash where multiple cars crashed into each other. And then they either asked them, I'm just gonna let this guy tell you guys what the study was about. So here you go.
The following year, Loftus published another paper on leading questions and reliability of eyewitness testimony, this time with Zanny. This time the difference is even more subtle, but amazingly influential. Participants again watched a video of a road accident, this one involving multiple vehicles. Having watched the video, participants were asked a series of questions about the scene. Some participants were asked whether they had seen a broken headlight. But were asked if they had seen the broken headlight. The researchers' use of the definite article the in the question led to twice the number of false reports of seeing a broken headlight in the video. There was no broken headlight in the video, but that sneaky little three-letter word led so many witnesses to swear that there had been.
That is just an example of like a tiny word in a question, that this isn't a conspiracy that all these law enforcement are purposely trying to get the witnesses to say something. It's just a small detail that could have a big impact. Like, it all starts with a really small detail that breaks one of those data points early on, and it's a very small little detail in the beginning in the way that they ask it. Could very much influence their whole memory of that event and create a false memory. Say, oh, do you remember Dave was late to work last Friday? And it's a really like familiar place. You can picture yourself at work, so that's like not a stretch. And you work with Dave all the time. You can picture Dave coming into work. Some days he's been late. Last Friday he wasn't, but the way you say, do you remember he was late last Friday? It's an easy jump to be like, yeah, I remember that. Maybe it wasn't last Friday, maybe it was 2 weeks ago, but like now in your head it's last Friday. What color shirt was Dave wearing? And then you'd be like, come up with it in your head, blue, because that's like the most likely color shirt. And you've seen Dave wear many blue shirts, and you picture it in your head, and now Dave was wearing that blue shirt when he was late on Friday, when he was never even late on Friday. Maybe he was late 3 months ago, but not last Friday. But now you remember him being late last Friday. You remember what shirt he was wearing. You remember what music was playing. Like, you have this whole memory in your head that you are not intentionally lying, and you believe it's real, and it's not necessarily real. Post-event information. Witnesses can be influenced by information they encounter after the event, which can alter their memory of what happened. For instance, if a witness hears another person's account of the event or reads a news article about it, they may inadvertently adopt some of the details from these sources as their own memories, even if they didn't actually witness those details. Misinformation effect. This phenomenon occurs when people are more likely to remember false information that was presented to them after the event than the accurate information they originally witnessed. This can lead to creation of false memories or the distortion of existing ones, further complicating the reliability of eyewitness testimony. So, talking about an event can cause a person to incorporate others' memories as their own. So there's a study that showed 2 participants different videos of the same event and then allowed them to discuss it. And when they brought them back in for questioning, each individual member remembered seeing events that they did not see, that was not in their video. It was in the partner's video that they saw. But that person remembered seeing it with their own head and claimed that that was their own memory when they did not in fact see that.
The contamination of eyewitness testimony with another witness's memory, reducing accuracy. When witnesses discuss what they've seen, we find that their testimony alters to match the accounts of other witnesses, and this is called memory conformity. Now, I've already discussed post-event discussion, that witnesses change their recall to be in line with other witnesses, and here's an interesting research study showing the effect. Gabbett showed videos of the same crime to pairs of participants, but each member of the pair was shown a different video, showing the crime from separate perspectives.
Well, what about when a witness isn't asked a leading question? Surely if every word is carefully checked for implicit meaning before questioning, the witness could then rely on their testimony. Well, it still might not be so reliable, as Kronberg et al. Demonstrated in the aftermath of a real, very tragic plane crash in 1992. A plane had taken off from Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam, and shortly into the flight had lost control of its engines. The pilots turned the plane around to return to the runway, but the plane lost height and crashed into an 11-story apartment building. Whilst the story had been widely reported in the news, the accident itself hadn't been captured on camera. So 10 months after the crash, Kronberg and colleagues questioned 193 people about it. When asked if they had seen the plane hit the building, 55% of those that had been asked reported that they had, even though they had not been present at the time and there was no video footage. In a follow-up study by the same team, the percentage of people who believed they had seen the crash had risen to 68%, and 67% of interviewees described how they saw the plane hit the building horizontally. Further proof that they were providing false testimony because the plane was vertical at the time of the crash. So were these supposed witnesses compulsive liars? No-gooders who can't distinguish between truth and imagination? No. Even more concerning, they were perfectly ordinary people like you and me who had fallen prey to our biggest strength and weakness, the human ability to self-deceive.
These people aren't evil or nefarious or anything. Like, there's no guilt I'm trying to imply to any of these people. It's just a crazy way our brains remember stuff. And so there's many other things that influence the reliability of memory, such as time since the event happened, attention to what happened. So you're more likely to remember a car crash than you are just walking down a trail, a random person that passed you. Like 5 days later, if you're going to try to describe that person, it's going to be a lot harder because you only saw them for like a second and there wasn't really any reason to remember them. So your memory of that person, for most people, is not going to be the greatest. You're not going to be able to remember exactly what they're wearing, exactly what color their eyes were, or like, just try it yourself. Try to think of last weekend when you went to the grocery store and you checked out. Describe to me the person that checked you out, you know? Not like checked you out like, hey, but checked you out like took your money, you talked to, you, like, what do you remember about the person? I personally, I don't even remember. Like, hold on, I'm actually gonna stop and try to think. So I think that the last person that I interacted with was through a drive-thru, and that person had like dark hair and maybe like fake nails, and like nice eyebrows, and obviously they were just wearing a McDonald's uniform. So I like kind of am creating this picture in my head, but if it's accurate, I literally have no idea. Like, I think I remember all these details, but maybe that was like a time before that I had gone. But actually try to stop and think of a person that you interacted with a couple days ago. I don't really trust Carroll County in general. There's a lot of stuff where they cut corners and they're a little bit shady, and they don't have like the top-notch law enforcement. Not that I'm like trying to diss on law enforcement. I think a lot of cops are really good cops. Just in particular, Carroll County, especially under the leadership of Tobe Lesenby, just like isn't really who I would want investigating my daughter's murder. I would definitely want them to be calling in like people who have dealt with many cases like this, not someone who describes Tobe said in an interview that there's no right, or they didn't know what to do with this case, and there's no like directions on how to deal with a case like this or whatever. But yeah, Tobe, there's tons of books on it. Like, there's whole degrees, like there's whole colleges that you can go to and get your doctorates in like in fucking crime scene investigation and CSI and interview techniques, and just there's lots of books and trainings and shit on this, and that you described it as that there's no instructions on how to do this is terrifying to me. And it tells me that when they were questioning witnesses, they probably weren't paying attention to how they were questioning them, and that could very well have influenced those memories of those witnesses. So this is kind of like mind-shocking to me. This is not at all how I had thought memories worked, and why I went hard on the family's testimony when there was inconsistencies, when in actuality, if you learn how memory really works, it's almost it should be like expected that Kelsey's story would evolve, because she's heard it. She's talked about it so many times. She's heard it from her family members explaining it at CrimeCon. She's heard news people talk about it when she's doing interviews. And so all those things, like little bits and pieces, end up changing her actual memory of it. And it's not her intentionally doing it. She doesn't even know it's happening. Nobody knows it's happening. Nobody's doing this on purpose. It's not a conspiracy. It's not like some great grand conspiracy. Like, I'm not making these vast leaps to be like, oh my gosh, this is a huge conspiracy that they walked past on a trail in the same way, wearing the exact same clothing, is to me indicates that possibly when they were being questioned, there was some sort of influence that caused them all to remember the exact same outfit. Maybe even just the picture being released 2 days later. It depends on when the witnesses' testimonies were, but that right there can have a huge impact on the witnesses' memory of what they saw. And so, oh yeah. The factors that influence encoding and memory can all affect the reliability of eyewitness testimony. Eyewitnesses are often inaccurate, and their testimony can be influenced by a number of factors. Testimony. Eyewitness testimony is still an important part of the justice system, but it's important to use it in conjunction with other forms of evidence. By using multiple sources of evidence, we can increase the accuracy of our decisions and help to ensure that justice is served. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it made you think about eyewitness testimony, and hopefully you learned some stuff. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and see you next time. Bye!